Welcome to Cornell Cooperative Extension and our monthly Consumer Issues program. I'm Carol Fisher, Consumer Educator here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. Our topic today on charitable giving is a particularly timely one as we approach the end of the year. This is the time when we're most likely to receive requests for contributions, and also the time of year when we're most likely to make donations. Another time when we might see an increase in requests is after a disaster or crisis, such as a hurricane or tornado, and we see a marked increase then as well. Well, we certainly don't want to give our hard-earned money to charities or organizations that don't exist, to phony scam artists, or to causes that don't meet our goals for charitable giving. So we have a lot of things to think about when we decide who and what causes we're going to give to. Today we have with us New York State Assistant Attorney General Mike Danaher, who's going to help us explore this topic and help us to prevent giving our hard-earned money to scam artists and to phony causes. So Mike, welcome.
Thank you, Carol. It's a pleasure to be back at Cornell Cooperative Extension for our monthly Consumer Issues program. And as Carol mentioned, it's really fitting that we have the discussion now regarding charitable giving, because it is a period of time or a time of the year when we really start thinking about making charitable gifts. So for those of you that are present, we're fast approaching the holiday season, and you would also be at or around the time of the holiday season when you're watching this. And nothing warms our hearts more than being able to know that we have contributed to make someone's holiday season better than it might otherwise have been. So whether it's contributing in a way of giving cash to organization, or actually going out and buying toys for a child at Christmas or other disadvantaged people, a new outfit for an elderly woman who might wear it to church during the holidays, or even going out and helping with a Christmas dinner put on for people who may not have been as advantaged as some others. It makes us feel good, and we need to do that. In fact, New Yorkers are very generous when it comes time to make gifts. There have been facts that I've seen that we in New York give out tens of billions of dollars annually to different charities. And in fact, the last time I checked, we were number 2 in the nation, statewide, of all states that make charitable gifts. And we are always willing to help those who aren't as fortunate as us. In fact, our office maintains records that we'll talk about in a minute, how we accumulate those records. But just our most recent report that we put out, there are 2 different aspects that we need to look at when it comes to reviewing charities. Those are the charities that raise money for themselves, so they have their own people that raise the money. And then there are those charitable organizations that hire third-party telemarketing companies, third-party marketers, to do the fundraising for them. And the law in New York requires that all third-party telemarketers, third-party fundraisers file with our office, not only file information about themselves and the monies that they raise, but also the contract that they have to raise funds for a charitable entity. They must file with our office, and then report at the end of the campaign to let us know how much in funds that they've actually raised. And our office prepares a report annually. It's called Pennies for Charity, and those are charitable campaigns run by third-party fundraisers for the benefit of charity. And the last figures that we have were for 2012 campaigns, and those campaigns raised $249 million. That's out of billions that are raised or given in charity. These third-party telemarketing campaigns or fundraising campaigns raised $249 million. And it's really interesting when I go back and look at the statistics over the years. It's pretty interesting that most of the statistics coming out of these campaigns are pretty consistent from year in to year out. Although back in 2007 it was about $178 million, we're up to $249 million. I did look back quickly at 2010, a couple of years before that, and it was also $249 million. So it's hundreds of millions of dollars that these third-party fundraiser campaigns raise. 37.9%, so 38% of the actual dollar donations went toward the charity. So that leaves 62% of the money actually goes toward telemarketer or fundraiser fees and expenses. So when you think about it, 38 cents of every dollar that you give will actually work its way into the charitable mission, and the remainder of it goes toward fundraising costs. Also, 80%, and again, this is consistent, 80% approximately of the contributions that are made, or 80% of those fundraising campaigns, less than 50% of the contributions that are made go toward the charity. So and 80% of the campaigns, you're going to figure that less than half that money will end up in the hands of the charity. And in fact, I thought was a pretty staggering amount, over 15% of the campaigns, the expenses of fundraising exceeded the amount of the contributions that were made. And only 3 campaigns out of 589, so that's 0.5%, resulted in 90% or more of the money going over to the charity. So these fundraising campaigns are quite lucrative in generating $249 million, but only a small, a minor percentage of those amounts actually goes over to the charities. And some would say, well, why do they even do it then? Well, in some instances, the charities do not have the infrastructure to raise their own funds for them. So that in order to raise funds, they actually have to go out. And they're kind of stuck in some instances, and it may prove out that they didn't generate enough in revenues to cover all of the expenses. So the charity has to look at it and say, well, I know a certain percentage is going to go to fundraising costs. Whatever smaller percentage we end up getting, that's more than we would have otherwise gotten anyway, so we'll go ahead and do it. But it's something that we as consumers have to keep in mind, that we have to make our decisions as to how we're going to donate our earned money and make the decisions. Who is it that we want to give our funds to? We all want to help, and when you look at it, we're encouraged to help in many different ways, other than the moral encouragement of trying to help someone in need. We also have other incentives that get us to give. For example, we get to take a tax deduction for charitable contributions that we make. So the government is giving us some incentive to say, hey, make some donations here. And we in the Attorney General's office also want to encourage people to donate. We want people to be able to help those who are not as advantaged as we may otherwise be. But we also have to encourage people to be good consumers and to be very careful in making those decisions whether we want to donate or not. Some people may hear those statistics that I gave and look aghast at them and said, oh my goodness, how could I do that? I'm never going to give again. We don't want that to happen. We want people to understand that charitable entities have legitimate expenses. They have expenses that otherwise they won't be able to fulfill their mission. Maybe they have employees. Maybe they have other types of overhead They have office staff that can answer the telephone, and they send people out and put on seminars, and they print materials that need to be done to put on these programs. So there are expenses of an overhead which are legitimate. And some would say, well, they'll call. I receive telephone calls, and somebody will say to me, this entity, this is supposedly a charity, but they're spending all this money on employees, and they have all these expenses. So people are making money on this deal, and they must not be a charity. People have to understand what being a charity really means. In New York, they are not-for-profit entities, not-for-profit corporations that are created under the law. We have for-profit corporations. We have not-for-profit corporations. And some people say, well, they're making a profit, so they must be in violation of law. That's not the case. It's kind of a misnomer, the name not-for-profit. Not-for-profit doesn't mean you can't make a profit. Really, the distinction between the two, with not-for-profit corporations sometimes have members. Well, we know for-profit corporations have these things called shareholders, who are the owners of the company. And so they derive the benefit of what their business corporation is doing. We as shareholders of a company may receive dividends, which is just a payment back to us as an owner of the company out of the proceeds of the entity. That's the distinction with a not-for-profit. A not-for-profit cannot use their profits for the benefit of the shareholders. They cannot. So they are required to use their profits, their finances, for the benefit of the charitable purpose for which they exist. New York recently had a change in law in July of this year that without getting into a lot of the technical details of it, changed a more complicated structure. We used to have 4 different types of not-for-profit corporations, A, B, C, and D. That's all gone. Now we have charitable entities and non-charitable not-for-profits. And the non-charitables are generally the not-for-profits that exist for the benefit of their members. The classic example are fraternal organizations. They have a fraternal society has a clubhouse, and the people can go to the clubhouse and they socialize and do their good works and things that way. They exist for the benefit of the members themselves, the ones that come into the clubhouse to socialize and carry on. Those are non-charitable entities in the sense that they don't have a mission to go out and benefit a broad category of people. It's just their members are there to be benefited. The ones we're going to talk about here today are the ones who are charitable not-for-profits. And those are the ones that have a broader charitable, educational, cultural purpose that exist for the benefit of these unknown, indefinite people that are out there. So charities can make money. It's just a question of what they do with the money. And the charities are supposed to use their funds to benefit and advance their particular charitable purpose. And as it turns out, it is one of the large areas where scam artists step in and try to take advantage of people. Charities solicit their funds in many different forms. We all get those. Everybody gets those. We get that telephone call from someone asking to raise funds. We get things in the mail for charities. I know many of you, if you contribute to particular charities, may end up finding that you end up getting that many more solicitations from other charities. The telephone calls we receive asking us to contribute. Some people would call me and say, well, you know, I'm getting these charitable solicitation telephone calls, and I'm on the do not call list, and I shouldn't be getting those calls. That is one of the exceptions to the do not call list, is that you can still receive charitable solicitation calls. So they are exempt from the do not call list. But what I tell people is, if you do not want to receive those calls, a legitimate charity will take your request to be off their list seriously, because they don't want to be calling people that they know they're not going to get any money from, so they don't want to waste their time. So if you do not want to receive those calls, just tell the caller that you want to be removed from their particular list, and usually they'll do that, unless your name shows up on another list at some point in time. That could be, but you are not excluded. They are not excluded from contacting you if you are on the do not call list. We also receive solicitations from personal contact. So it could be, we all have seen those tables that are set outside of retail stores where somebody's raising money for one particular cause or another, and they have a bake sale maybe, and you can pay money to the bake sale, or you can make a donation, or something like that. The local Little League, who's there with the cutest little kids in the world in their baseball uniforms with their jar, asking you to contribute to help support their programs. And there's nothing wrong with those sorts of things. There can be solicitations that are made door to door, and unless your municipality has a prohibition against door-to-door solicitations without getting a permit, there's nothing illegal about doing that. So they could come to your door. There's different ways that solicitations are made, and there's different ways of solicitation programs that are out there. You may get contacted to buy tickets to send somebody to a show. So rather than making an outright contribution, you buy a ticket. Or a frequent one that I'm seeing now, that local restaurants and bars and things will have a certain night where you come in and a certain percentage of what you buy gets donated to that particular charity. There are traveling food vendors that a charitable entity can hire to come in and do a fish fry or some chicken barbecue that you can come and the proceeds of that are used to pay. There's raffles, charitable raffles out there. You can make direct contributions. We also see golf tournaments and all these other things that are used to raise funds. And they're all great. They all serve their purpose of trying to raise the money. The big problem with charitable solicitations, though, is sometimes we don't know who it is that we're actually dealing with, and that the money that we're donating may not actually go toward the charitable purpose for which it was intended. So we have to be very careful and understand who it is that's soliciting us and making a decision whether or not that we're giving to who we want to give to. One key thing that I encourage everyone to do as a part of their desire to help others is to have a charitable giving plan from the outset, so they know how much money they can afford to give for charity in any particular year. That serves a couple of purposes. One is that it makes sure that whatever limited funds you have, it ends up going to the place that is the nearest and dearest to your heart. You aren't going to be caught up in being able to, giving your money out for this thing and that thing whenever you get solicited. And then when it comes time to make a donation to the charity that you really want to make it to, and you don't have the funds available to do that, if you have a charitable giving plan at the beginning of the year, you'll know what you can afford and to whom that you want to give it to. It also serves the purpose of giving you the ability to say no. Because this way you can say you get a call from someone to raise funds, and you can say, as worthwhile as that cause may be, you can say, I'm sorry, but I already have developed my charitable giving plan for the year, and you sound like a really worthwhile cause, and if you want to send me the information, I might be able to consider making a donation in a future period of time. And that so that you can protect yourself in that way, because one of the ways that charitable scams are most effective is, and all scams actually, is if you don't have enough time to think about it. They want to get you to make the commitment, give the money right away, so that you don't have a chance to second guess yourself and decide that maybe this isn't the best thing that you can do. So having that charitable giving plan gives you that chance to say, send me your stuff and I'll consider it in the future. I've already made the choice of what I'm going to do at this particular point in time. Again, giving yourself time is one of the key components to protecting yourself as a consumer. The way to give yourself time is to ask for literature. So if you really are interested in making that particular contribution, ask them to send you something. Or have the person who knocks on your door or the table that you go to give you the literature and give yourself time to think about it. Think about what you can afford. Think about if this is something that you want to do. Give you a chance to research the charitable entity to see who they may or may not be. Certain red flags should start waving, and sirens should be going off in your head. If this solicitation tries to cut you off from being able to have time to make a decision, such things as, we'll be sending somebody right over to pick up your money, or give us the money now and we can send you the information about what we do in writing later. We need your funds right now. As soon as someone starts pressing and becomes very forceful to have you turn your money over immediately, you should go the other way. That's a red sign, a red flag and a siren. Also, another good thing that you should do is to make sure that you pay by check. It serves a couple of purposes. The most important of which is, remember when we first started talking about this and we said that you get a charitable deduction from your taxes. Well, you want to have a record that you made that contribution. What better record than to have your check that you wrote? So it's best. Also, you want to, when you use a check, to make it payable to the charity. Do not make it payable to the person who is soliciting you. Do not make it payable to any other entity besides the charitable entity that you're making the contribution. If, in fact, you want to make the contribution and you believe that's a tax-deductible contribution, make sure that you investigate to see that that contribution is tax-deductible. Because we talked about there's charitable and non-charitable entities. There are only a certain portion of charitable entities are tax-deductible. Make sure that your contribution is tax deductible. For example, if you're making a contribution for a golf tournament, not all of your contribution is going to be tax deductible because only a portion of it will go to the charity, another portion of it will go to the golf course or to the meal provider or the prize provider or whatever. So be a good consumer and understand that. And know that if you're really entering this golf tournament for the purpose of making a charitable contribution, not for the purpose of playing in a golf tournament on a nice course somewhere, if it's for the charitable contribution, make sure you understand if any or all or what portion of it is going to go to the charitable purpose for which it is. And they'll break that out for you. They'll tell you what percentage of it that you can actually use. So give yourself time. There's nothing wrong with asking them what percentage of my contribution is actually going to go toward the charitable purpose. We heard the statistics at the outset that a third maybe of the money that is raised through a third-party fundraiser campaign actually goes toward the charitable purpose. I had the circumstance once to receive a telephone call at home. I'm probably the worst person that they would be calling to do that, a third party. And I said, tell me, by the way, how much of my contribution is actually going to go toward whatever it was they were soliciting? And I do have to say that the telemarketer was very good. He said, I don't have that information right now, but I would be glad to have a supervisor contact you and let you know. I said, we'll do that, and then I'll consider it. He said, okay, thank you. never heard from anyone about that. No supervisor ever called me or anything. So again, that was me being a good consumer and finding out that it was not legitimate. There are different ways to check on charitable entities, and I recommend that you do that. The Attorney General's office, we have a website, and our website has in it the information that I mentioned before, that there's actually a link right on the main charities website. Is a link for a heading that says Pennies for Charity. So that it has a link right to the reports, and they have the reports going back, I don't know how many, 10 years or so. And you can look it up. Those are third-party fundraiser campaigns. But in addition to that, all charities that raise funds in New York or possess funds in New York, exist in New York, are required to register with our office, and they themselves are also required to make annual financial filings. And it depends on how large the entity is as to what is required. But your more significant entities that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in funds raised are required to file with us. It's called a CHAR 500. It's the charitable form. And CHAR 400. So they have to register, and then they have to file annual reports. They have to give us, depending on their finances, but anyone of substance is required to, as a part of the filings, to give us a copy of their tax return. So their IRS, they use a 990. Charities use a 990. We use 1040s for individuals, but for entities, it's 990s. They file those with our office, and those are available on our website. So, one, you can check on the entity to see if they're up to date with their filings, and two, not only if they're up to date with their filings, but the actual filings that they made with us, including their tax returns. And on those tax returns, they're not that complicated to look at if you just sit there and think about it for a minute. But right on the document itself, it talks about how much money they raised last year and this year, how much has been used for expenses, and how much is used for programs and things. It will also be a tax return that will show you if they have officers, directors, those sorts of things, and are they paid? And how much are they paid? So it's a real interesting document, and we being good consumers, we would want to look those things up to make sure that we are giving to an entity that is using it for what we expect. Now, I don't necessarily care what percentage of money goes toward the charitable purpose and overhead expenses and program costs and all those things. What I am most concerned about is that you as consumers have that information available and can use it. So if you look at it and you say, hey, this is a really worthwhile cause, but they have a lot of overhead and expenses in raising their funds, and maybe only a third of the money goes toward the charitable purpose. As long as you're informed of that and you make that decision, then that's fine. We don't want you just saying, okay, here's $20, and you expect all $20 to be used for whatever charitable purpose. And then later on you find out that, it was really only $1 of the $20 that was used for that purpose. So the purpose of this is to have information available that you can use. Now it then falls upon us, the consumer responsibility, to use that information and then make informed decisions. So there are other websites out there. The Better Business Bureau also maintains a website on charitable entities that you can look up. There's other ones called GuideStar that keeps track of these sorts of things as well. So do your searching around to see how much of that money is going to go toward their purpose and support those particular purposes. If you suspect that there's a scam or something, you should feel free to contact my office, the New York State Attorney General's office, so that you can, so that we know that you've been receiving this information. or these contacts, you could be contacted by someone that's not even in this country trying to raise funds. These scams are happening all over the place, especially with charitable solicitations. Scams are very prevalent around the times that people would be expecting to receive calls to solicit, the holiday season, or as Carol mentioned at the outset, a disaster, a natural disaster. The first thing we want to do is to help. We want to help people who have been victimized by these sorts of things. It could be natural disasters, it could be terrorist attacks, it could be any number of those things. And there have been people who have gone out, scam artists who have gone out and stolen money from people under the guise that they were raising it for a particular charitable purpose. That's why I refer to them as scam du jour, because there's a different one every day, and a lot of the times they're charity scam du jours because it depends on what's happening at this particular point in time. I'll use a classic example. The Attorney General a few weeks ago, as we're taping this, a few weeks ago had to issue an announcement to have people be wary of charitable solicitations related to the Ebola matter. People were trying to say, well, buy this kit to protect yourself from Ebola, which was just a couple of wipes or something, and you had to spend this money. Or they wanted to raise money to help the family of the first person who died from Ebola in the United States, the one that occurred down in Dallas. So they were all out. They come out of the woodwork. So yeah, helping these poor people. We see the stories on national television about these poor people in Western Africa who are dying by the hundreds because of Ebola, that if there would just be some ways that people can work toward containing it, and they don't have the funds to do it, they don't have the resources to do it, so we could be contacted to make donations, and that would be a great thing. The important thing would be that we should make sure to make our donations to those recognized national or world, international charitable entities who are directly involved in those things. Somebody just calls us on the phone and says that they're from Ebola Rescue, and would you mind making a donation because your funds are going to be used to buy medical equipment to protect the caregivers of Ebola. Yeah, we would want to help with those sorts of things, but we don't know who this entity is. We don't know who it is. We don't know who we're giving our money to. We don't know if it's ever going to reach the place that it's designed to reach. So we have to be good consumers, help, but make sure that we give to those entities that we know that are going to best use it. For those, we can kind of take a little sideways step and talk a little bit about those of us who are involved in not-for-profit entities. People need to understand that when they join these organizations, that they have a fiduciary responsibility to do what they were elected or appointed to do. And you need to be a good and conscientious board member, and there are certain things that you can do. Again, the Attorney General's website has information related to those who are going on to boards, who are board members, on how funds are to be handled, how you have to protect those funds. You're almost a trustee. You are entrusted with funds to fulfill this mission that you are pursuing. And so you have to use those funds for that purpose. And it is always a good idea to make sure that you use or that you enforce your fiduciary responsibilities and make sure everyone is living up to their end of the bargain. There are strict financial controls that people should be aware of. They shouldn't be allowing one person to control all the funds without any oversight. That's where we see these frequent problems. Can't tell you the number of times that I'll open up a newspaper and I'll see that a local youth soccer club treasurer was just arrested because they took $35,000, or a volunteer fire department, the treasurer, and somebody would say, how do they get away with that sort of thing? And I'll tell you how they get away with it. They get away with it because nobody is engaging in any oversight. It's trust. They trust the person that is doing this. They've been the longtime person that's doing it. It's always fine to trust someone, but you know the rule is you always trust, but always verify. So make sure you check bank statements. Make sure you check see what checks are being written. There are certain ways that you can protect those funds. Have two people signing the checks so that one person can't just be writing checks. Always have checks made payable to a particular entity. Don't have checks payable to cash. You don't know where those funds are going. So that we who are on boards, and I've been on many of them, have this fiduciary responsibility. And just because you get appointed to a board, you can say, well, I'm just on the board. I only go to the meetings every once in a while. If you can't fully participate in that organization, don't sign up. To get people who really will actively participate and keep an eye out for those sorts of things. And good idea is, if you have the wherewithal, have a third party check. Do an audit to check the records, to make sure that everything is being done appropriately. Because it's usually not found out as a result of an audit, these problems. These problems are usually found out when all of a sudden there's no money left, or there is a big problem financially, and then all of a sudden people start looking back and they go, oh my gosh, it's been going on for 3 years. Stay on top of these sorts of things. We do have that responsibility. As a person who is making charitable contributions, your tips are: do not be pressured. Give yourself time to think about it. Ask what programs are conducted by this charity, how much money go to those particular programs, how much does, if they're using a third-party fundraiser, how much does the fundraiser guarantee will go over to the charitable entity. Always give to charities that you are most familiar with. Do not give out your credit card numbers or any other personal information to strangers. Whether they're collecting for a charity or not, don't give out personal information. Ask for information in writing from this charity. And one way to protect yourself, especially those of you who just aren't rude enough to hang up on someone, screen your telephone calls so that you may not pick up the call, so you don't have to worry about somebody pressuring into something. Go on to all the websites that are available, not only the Attorney General's website, by the way, which is charitiesnys.com. So it's charitiesnys.com, all one word. You can check the annual reports, not only from third-party fundraisers, but also from the charitable entity themselves. We also have brochures available online about tips for charitable giving, these things that you should consider when making these charitable gifts. Do not send out cash. And again, if you make contributions to those entities that you are most familiar with, then you will go a long way toward protecting yourself when trying to make donations of your hard-earned funds. If you have any questions related to charitable giving or to any other consumer-related issue, you can feel free to contact our office, the New York State Attorney General's office. Local number is 721-8771, or you can use our 800 number, which if you call in the Tompkins County region, will ring in our office in Binghamton at 1-800-771-7755. We hope that you'll come out and join us one of these days, and Carol will fill you in on what we're going to be talking about in the coming months.
Thank you, Mike, for helping us explore this issue today. We learned some really important points about how to make sure that our money will go towards those that we really want to help. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. If you'd like additional information on charitable giving or any other consumer issue, please feel free to call our consumer helpline at Cooperative Extension. Our number is 272-2292. Our staff is here for providing unbiased information and to help consumers explore their options when they're having difficulties. If you'd like to join us live next time, our Consumer Issues programs are currently held on the second Thursday of each month here at Cooperative Extension at 11 a.m. We are located at 615 Willow Avenue in Ithaca. Our programs are free and open to the public. And as Mike said, our topic next month is avoiding consumer problems on the internet. So we hope you will join us then. Thank you.